I only want to share cursory thoughts here today after first having viewed Mobile Suit Gundam 0080 War in the Pocket, a 6-episode OVA which saw release during 1989. I became a great admirer of the mighty Yoshiyuki Tomino's Gundam work, viewing Mobile Suit Gundam, Zeta, Double Zeta, Char's Counterattack F91, as well as Reconquista. I also much admired Tomino's work on Space Runaway Ideon, Brain Powered, The Wings of Rayon, and Ghazi's Wing. My exposure to non-Tomino Gundam has been so far limited, and frankly I found it somewhat unimpressive. Fighter G lacks a lot of what I loved about the Gundam series as realised by Tomino, and a lot of what I found irritating about Dragon Ball Z, honestly. My sampling of Gundam Seed clips is not yet impressive. Gundam Wing seems like a well-animated show, although a rather bland and overly sentimental one, but aren't so many of these things then. And now we have all this Iron-Blooded Orphans, Witch from Mercury, or the Origin material, which I barely have any exposure to or even current interest in actually viewing really anytime soon. War in the Pocket, directed by Fumihiko Takayama, from a scenario by Kiyosuke Yuki and a screenplay from Hiroyuki Yamaga, was a celebration of Gundam's 10th anniversary and is set during the one-year war depicted during the original Mobile Suit Gundam television series. A smaller story taking place on a colony named Side 6, the narrative focuses on a group of Zeon commandos attempting to locate and destroy a Gundam mobile suit secretly being prepared by the Earth Federation and seemingly unknown and against the established wishes of the colony's own citizens. The original Mobile Suit Gundam primarily focused on Amuro Ray and the crew of the White Base in their arc during the one-year war, the RX-80 Gundam, which they were using to fight against the Principality of Zeon. And the window with which one views the Principality of Zeon is via Char Aznable. His perspective is the one via which we mainly learn about the Zeon faction. War in the Pocket focuses on one of the many implied smaller-scale conflicts which occurs during the one-year war, a group of characters who all perish trying to fulfill their orders and whose story will never be glorified in history books. It locates the side of the war never often celebrated in any subsequent retrospectives, that of the civilian consequences. A young boy happens to befriend an undercover Zeon soldier, and we witness how the everyday lives of the regular people attempt to process the grand sublime events of what we know as Mobile Suit Gundam. It is an inherent curiosity, given how fleshed out, established in detail the Universal Century Gundam world, designed primarily by Tomino, is. It only made sense to wonder and to tell the stories of the regular people within the universe and displaying how they react to the Great War as in our own histories. I felt as though War in the Pocket was a tremendous miniseries, exemplary direction, terrific storyline, and it really displays a side of the Gundam universe, Universal Century anyway, which I think can definitely sell skeptics of the Gundam series the true appeal of the beloved lore. Real robot, not just in terms of precise mechanical engineering science when designing one's mecha or mobile suits in this case, but in terms of realistic applications of them, the horrifying inevitability of violent warfare which humanity would actually use these machines for, and how real human beings, these imperfect people, react to horrific war. My friend Saul, somewhat unsure of investment into Gundam prior, found himself in our flat's living room as I was watching episodes 3 and 4 of this OVA, and he verbalized a distinct preference for this program's tone compared with his brief forays into Gundam prior. I think entirely when I've been viewing it, I've come to really love some Tomino UC Gundam, or just UC Gundam in general, as this OVA is not Tomino's work. I would actually argue there is a lot of this material, the horrors of war, civilians reacting to the elaborate set pieces, or rather hearing about them from the main plot, a realistic, gritty interpretation of futuristic human warfare. These things are to be found in the original Mobile Suit Gundam, and in Zeta as well, although Zeta is set in space much more often than on colonies or planets, and so comparatively to the original MSG, it can lack this theme to some degree, although its main cast endure the most terrifying brutal PTSD. It is really brazen. Double Zeta had likely reduced, in many viewers' eyes, Gundam to essentially super robot again, particularly with that series' emphasis on the new type phenomena. I do really like Double Zeta. The animation is so... the precision of the animation and the care and craftsmanship of the action sequences and the display of motion. Double Zeta is a really good show. I don't think it can be considered disappointing in comparison to Zeta, but I still think it's an undeniably really good program. I also suspect that Tomino was inspired by, given how much emphasis there is on the civilian and the collateral damage aspect of the mobile suit warfare during Gundam F91. I suspect he was inspired by War in the Pocket. I could be wrong, but it does occur to me. It is true that the original Mobile Suit Gundam, at 43 episodes long, one has to sit down with it, or otherwise a condensed film trilogy, in order to really know it, and one could even lose sight of the emphasis on this theme within the long run of both the series and their distance from actually initially viewing it, and even noticing this facet of that show. War in the Pocket so highlights these themes of Gundam that it could be misconstrued that the original MSG didn't do this enough. It had to have, otherwise War in the Pocket wouldn't have existed in the way that it does. It had to be inspired by something, right?